Welcome back to another episode of AGL Self Evolution. I'm here with my man Ryan and Rusty. It's another day in paradise. All right. So you think that weed helps you be spiritual?
Sure.
You think the Indians use weed to be spiritual?
Absolutely. And this is what brought weed to us.
How do you know?
I just grew up right from those kids. No, straight up, man. They was the one that knew how Mother Earth worked. He knew all the earths. And then some stupid ass white boy come along and he's like, dude, look at how I started with that. And he started growing that shit and selling it just like a motherfucker that was selling a bottle of whatever that shit was that had cocaine in it. They used to drink. Same shit. He got a cigar or he could buy the elixir shit. Which one? Let's talk about it. You know what I'm talking about? He's been around longer than he has. It's like we trade Indians alcohol, they give us weed and peyote. The Indians brought us all that medicine and shit.
Yeah.
And Europeans and stupid asses from over there, they brought doctors and shit over here and started cutting up all this Indians and people and learning more about what these drugs were. Found what cocaine was from another continent. Once we fucking got a hold of cocaine, well, like slotting, right? Back in the day. You know, lotting, we were drinking lotting, smoking pot. So, see, like in Tennessee, if you want to be high, you just go fucking get one of the tobacco leaves. They all laid out upside down at the right time of the year. You go pick that top one off. That something's laying in the seat of your truck and you drive on. Time you get home, it's dried out and wrinkled up, perfect. Putting some weed in that motherfucker. You're at hot. Hot. Because that fucking tobacco's strong tasting. It's like sweet. And then you got the weed in the mix with it.
My father used to tell me he used to give his grandfather tobacco. He used to walk like on a cane, and when he used to smoke it, he used to just stretch out and walk normal.
Really?
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and I'm pretty strong. I feel good. Shower, shit. I'm out here smoking a cigarette, man. I'm like, wow. I can feel it kind of go through my body. Alright. Yeah. I'm trying to quit. The cigarette's like poison. For sure.
Well, it's not just tobacco, it's fucking
Shit,
tobacco,
it's
and
anything.
airplane fuel, and gunpowder, and fucking
Rat poison,
cyanide,
arsenic.
Bullshit, it's in the cigarette. My mom, she fucking goes and buys pure tobacco in a bag, and then with cigarettes and these shoots and whatnot, man, fucking sometimes rolls it wrong. She's like fucking 80.
Shit's way cheaper too.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
But
like-
it doesn't taste as good. It's fucked.
I don't know.
All the
I haven't
poison
tried
shit's
it.
gonna taste good.
She actually gave me one of them. She gets the ones that got the shoots and the filter in it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and then you just have the cigarette packing machine, you just fold it over and
yeah, something like that.
But
I'm still not trying that shit. You can get it at the tobacco store. Because the tobacco is actually leaf. Damn, I watched the fucking how it's made show about that shit. And that leaf ain't really a leaf. It's a fucking really thin piece of paper they spray. They took that tobacco and fucking concentrated it down into juice. And then sprayed over a thin layer of what they said was tobacco foliage. And then it got sliced up. And then they rolled it up. So that now it has some kind of shit in it to where if you leave it set so long it'll go out.
the fire safety shit.
Yeah. Fiberglass. Yeah. That's fucked up.
Tell me about your experiences of living off the grid.
Oh, you gotta be more specific than that. There's been so much shit now that's like when it started, it wasn't really by choice. It was like just everything kind of went to shit in my life. I was like freaking out on everybody too, because it was just like, I don't know, just all these coincidences that lined up to me being homeless, and I was just sure that people were setting it up on purpose.
What do you mean, like coincidence? Like what happened? Back to
Like,
back. Explain it.
Started out like my girlfriend cheated on me, and it was like really obvious. And so I moved out of her house, and then I was staying with this other dude, and like I feel like he got me drinking a lot, like on purpose. And so I was an alcoholic, couldn't really work much. And then it was a while since I had worked, so that looked bad on the job, so I just didn't even try. And he got me selling drugs, so I was like selling drugs, and that was the only work I knew how to do. And then I met this other girl. She got me back on meth. So then I was on meth, drinking, and homeless.
How does it feel to be homeless and on drugs? Like, how does that work? Like, do you feel
Well-
bad or do you just want to get high?
I'll tell you, being homeless sober now, like when I was starting out being homeless sober this time I was in a tent, and it was way worse than being, when you're on drugs you kind of don't give a fuck. You're like, yeah, I'm camping, this is awesome, until you come down, of course, or run out, and then you're like, fuck, everything's so bad, you know? And it's just way more extreme. You like literally want to kill yourself constantly. So being sober though, it's, you don't really think about killing yourself. You actually just are like, man, I can fix this situation, and you're able to be proactive and able to take good steps. And, when you accomplish things in sobriety, it makes you want to stay in sobriety because you made these accomplishments. I just thought the first thing I did was I got a job with the trash company, and then I was sober 4 months, and I lived in a tent. And then I went to sober living and worked with a moving company, and those are big steps. Getting a job and going to sober living is a big step for sure. So that kind of helped me get solid in my sobriety. There was this girl, and we just kind of went on crazy adventures all the time for like 6 months. And just went on like lots of road trips and stuff like that. And then finally we came back, and I was like, well, I really got to get things back together, because I couldn't afford the sober living, so that's why I could leave. And yeah, I got this job at Office Depot, and that's more my sober experience of being homeless.
And you've been homeless for how long?
With like minor relief, like the 4 months in sober living, and I had a couple months that I spent at a buddy's house. It's been 5 years now.
Damn. And that was all drugs or no?
Yeah, I've only been sober for 7 months.
So like 4 years was the drugs.
Yeah.
Did it feel like it flew by?
No, it dragged on pretty bad. There's just a lot of crazy stuff that happened, I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what? What happened? What would you call crazy?
I mean, my very first night, it started snowing, and I called everyone on my phone, and then put on Facebook, does anyone have somewhere for me to go tonight? And I had lost all my clothes because the car had gotten towed, so I was only in shorts and a t-shirt. I didn't have a backpack with nothing in it. I didn't have a tent. I didn't have anything. And this dude ended up giving me a jacket. And I ended up sleeping in a parking garage. the next morning I went to Safeway and I stole a hammock.
Damn.
Yeah. And went to the task force and they gave me blankets. So then I was laying in a hammock with blankets, you know. Then I met these people, Tim and Tammy, and they helped me out a lot. They let me stay in their tent a bunch of times, and like, I mean, we did a lot of drugs together, and I had more drugs than most people.
Was it like a learning experience, or do you regret that? Do you wish you would have taken a different route?
Oh, of course, I wish I'd never done drugs. Honestly, drugs changed me so much.
You're not the same person anymore?
No, dude, you want to see something crazy? So I have an ID from when I first started doing drugs, and then I lost my wallet and it got found when this dude moved out of his apartment. And then I have an ID from like when I first got sober from drugs. And like the difference is insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is when I first got sober, and this is before I looked like normal, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
And here I just look so bad. And this is like a couple months in, you know. I had already gone. Actually, the first thing I did was I went to a mental hospital.
Wow.
That was, and I got new shoes now, but they took my shoelaces. Those shoes I wear at work all the time.
I didn't notice them. No, I didn't notice the shoes.
They're terrible. But I can't wear these ones because they're too nice and I can't ruin them.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I should show this ID at gas stations because I just look so bad in this one.
You almost look like the Joker.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Jesus.
I acted like it too. I did some crazy shit, man. I dragged sticks around behind me so that they grind on the concrete and like put some pressure to them and sharpen. And then when I got to my camp, I'd bury them in the ground with the spear end pointed out.
Wow.
So then by the time I left my camp, I just had spears like all the way around my camp.
Wow.
And then I had tied like wire through all of them. It was fucking, and then had tied bells to the wire.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
You know, a lot of people like the only thing that I would ever turn to, I wouldn't turn to drugs. I would turn to psychedelics like peyote or ayahuasca.
That's where it all started, actually. When I had my apartment here, I started with, so I was selling pounds of weed, right? And then I got hooked up with this guy, and he taught me about selling Molly, which you can get for like $30 a gram if you buy a few ounces, and make like $100 a gram if you sell it individually. And he was willing to just front me quarter pounds of Molly, 4 ounces. So, you know, I made a lot of money doing it, so I just kept doing it. And then I turned to acid and started selling acid. I'd pick up like 500 hits of acid at first, and then I started picking up like 1,000. And then I started picking up 10,000 hits of acid, which is a Bible.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then you sell those for 10 a piece. You get the pages for 100, and a page has 100 hits on it.
But I don't
Or no, it has 1,000 hits on
like,
it.
because ayahuasca is like, where my family's from, Guatemala.
Yeah, I've done ayahuasca.
DMT?
Well, I've done DMT. I've never done straight ayahuasca.
I've done DMT. I want to try ayahuasca. That's Peru though. Ayahuasca's like in the Amazon.
I have some DMT.
I wanted to like.
That's the only other thing I mess with too.
I
can't take acid or mushrooms anymore.
DMT like I want it's spiritual to me. Like I don't do drugs for pleasure or anything. Like I don't.
Right.
I do it because I want answers to my questions about life.
Yeah, I only do it when I go camping, you know, and then I can go sit in the woods and meditate.
The Mayans talk about that we can only see a certain spectrum of colors. There's a certain spectrum outside of the colors that we can see.
Mm-hmm.
That there's so much more that we can't see, like the spiritual.
Yeah.
There's like we can only see a range.
About some crazy shit about that. When I was doing all that, I was eating acid every day, waking up eating 10 hits of acid.
Damn.
Right? And I just meditated all day, sold drugs, didn't do anything but like literally.
What did you meditate about?
All kinds of stuff. I meditated to different books and learning programs and all kinds of shit.
So you were trying to help yourself?
Like create my program, yeah. And eventually, I could like astral project while I walked, and like still keep my body in motion for a few steps.
How was
And
that?
like,
What did you see? Like when?
usually I could only get like so far away from myself, before I'd have to return. Otherwise, I'd probably fall over.
A lot of people, a lot of monks, Buddhist monks, spend their whole lifetime trying to learn how to do astral projection because they do it with no drug. They do it with their mind. They do it
Yeah,
with
when
the.
I was a kid, I still sleepwalk. But when I was a kid, I used to have these dreams where I'd get up and walk around the house. And I had a friend tell me that was probably astral projection.
Damn.
And then also when I was eating all that acid and just meditating all the time, and I had a buddy that was doing the same thing with me, and so we were like learning together, And he taught me how to see like people's auras, and then eventually I woke up one day and I could just see everyone's auras and like energy that was attached to it that I figured out was like residual energy from things they touched or interacted with.
Right.
And then when they started to have a really strong intention, I could see this like beam of energy from them connect to whatever they're. It was crazy shit, and I just saw it. I didn't even have to meditate.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously.
That's interesting.
And then, I didn't do meth until 2000. The end of 2015.
Wow.
So I spent a couple years just. I don't know why I just dove so hard into drugs, really. It was just kind of like, I guess my dad was an addict, my grandpa was an addict, so it's just kind of like genes. My mom's an addict.
Yeah, I only, cause I wanna, like, to me, my understanding of life is it has completely transformed from what it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Like I see it as life is a lesson. You know, we wake up, we feel pain, happy, sad, we go through all these emotions, and our reason for living is to attempt to perfect ourselves, to attain illumination. Some people call it ascension or whatever, but to be one with God, or some people might say the gods. You know, the Mayans, the Vikings, the Thor and Odin, Vishnu, Krishna from India. Everyone had their gods.
So I think that whatever you believe in exists on some level because you truly believe in it, and we all create our own realities. Okay, so if you believe you're going to be successful and you truly envision it and you're sure of it, and it's not surprising to you when you become successful, maybe challenging but not surprising, then you will become successful because that's your belief. Gandhi said your thoughts become your actions, your thoughts become your words become your actions become your beliefs become your destiny.
So, as a man thinketh, he is.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it starts with the thought, right?
I think, therefore I am.
Like there's a guy named Dr. DeReal, um, and he broke down the cabal, and I'll tell you more about him later. But he was trying to say that in the Bible, um, and before the word could have been spoken, you know how in the Bible it says, and so the word was spoken.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be thought first before he spoke it.
Right.
It was thought before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, how powerful our thoughts can be. Like if you really want something, it will materialize.
Exactly.
If you want
And
to,
that's my thought on gods. All the gods do exist to an extent and in a way.
because we create them. Are you saying?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't think that they're actually, some people might say like Buddha or maybe even Jesus.
Let's say God,
or
the God, the Christian God, right? He is the manifestation of our idea of the belief in good, righteousness, and humankind, right? So, therefore, we put all of that energy to another place instead of holding it in ourselves. And we do this from birth.
well, the way it's described is like we reincarnate. We just forget who we are.
Exactly.
We're stuck
We
in the
possess-
wheel of life because we have to learn our lesson.
We possess this when we're fucking born.
Like the reason why I was born into the
But
family.
as soon as you lose or gain any kind of belief, like when you're a child, when you're a fetus, your belief is that this is the world, this is existence, and so when that whole belief changes, your whole reality changes. Does that make sense? So I think if you're to believe in hell,
Which comes from the Vikings. It's a word. It's a Viking word.
hell,
Yes.
really,
Like Valhalla and
Yeah.
hell. They come from them.
but Valhalla is
Heaven.
Their heaven.
Yeah, they're heaven for the warriors that
Yeah.
lick their wounds and feast and fight for eternity. Something like that. But the hell comes from them. But in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which really should be called Book of Life, one or the other, they talk about that when we die, the soul remains 3 days in something called Bardo. Bardo is the illusion we're stuck in before we come back into a body. Like people, you want to say people like Jesus or Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, one of the great Mayan gods. They want to call them like advanced souls or children or sons of light. People that have gained their illumination and come back to help us because the body is the grave of the soul. If that makes any sense to you.
Makes some sense to me. You know what's crazy about the 3 days is DMT is measurable and it's released in measurable amounts, for 3 days after the body dies.
We're in a
And a lot of scientists would argue that is why we have like near-death experiences, why you think you see hell or heaven.
they say that the pineal gland produces DMT. That's why the monks can project because they have learned to control that, and they can make enough DMT to astral project naturally. They say that their pineal gland is bigger than the Europeans' glands because they've atrophied it. They have evolved externally instead of internally. That makes sense?
Yeah.
They've evolved with machines and the mechanized instead of I must find God. I must find who I am. When I wake up, God. When I sleep, God. When I meditate, God. I need to know who I am. Why am I here? What's my function? The reason for our existence.
Yeah. I know I got a higher reason than Office Depot.
Oh.
I have to. You might want to turn that away for a second.